Hey, I'm Ben Yee, Democratic State Committeeman for New York's 66th Assembly District and the Secretary of the Manhattan Democratic Party.
I'm Melissa Stein. I'm a county committee member of the Assembly District 66 Part A. I'm secretary of that part, and we're coming to you live, although by the time you see it, it won't be live anymore.
It's not live if we record it and they watch it later.
True, but in the moment it's live during the State of the Union.
Yes, but that's not even the most interesting part about tonight's broadcasts. What we really want to talk to you about is the responses to the State of the Union.
Right.
Because there are 5 of them. There have been multiple responses to a State of the Union address in the past. The Tea Party used to have one when the mainline Republicans would respond, but 5 is a bit more than normal.
So usually, for people who are sort of like me and didn't pay all that much attention before, there's a State of the Union that the president gives, and then the opposition side. So
Yes.
now it would be the Democrats sort of do a rebuttal.
Yes.
Like an after rebuttal. And maybe it's usually one person who's representing the party.
Yes.
This year, it's not one, it's not two, but 5 Democrats are all coming on
Yes.
to talk about what they heard.
Let me read to you who they are so we can get a sense of these different perspectives we're going to hear from.
Right.
We've got Rep. Ed Kennedy from Massachusetts. He's the grandson of John F. Kennedy. He's representing the official response of the Democratic Party. Then you've got House Delegate from Virginia, Elizabeth Guzman. She is also an official representative of the Democratic Party. She's delivering the Spanish response. Then you've got Senator Bernie Sanders, who's giving his own response.
Because he just can't let go.
Because I think maybe because he might be running for president in 2020, or he's got his own, ideology which he'd like to espouse.
Pony bros out there.
And then you've got former Rep. Donna Edwards from Maryland, who's doing the WFP, Working Families Party response. Now, we're pretty familiar with the WFP here in New York, but it's actually a national party, and they're sort of labor-aligned, left-of-center party. And then you've got Representative Maxine Waters from California, who's doing a response on BET. But so that's a lot of different folks talking about potentially a lot of different things. There's not a cohesive message coming from the Democratic Party, even though ideally what you'd like is everybody to agree on what the opposition party stands for so that it can promote a different set of ideas come election time.
So we were talking about this slightly heatedly before we started filming, about how the Democrats aren't really able right now to get a cohesive message together.
No.
And so when you start reaching out to these different groups with different messaging, it just makes it even harder to form a coalition.
Right.
It would have made a lot of sense to me, as someone who really doesn't know anything, to craft a singular message and reach out to all the disenfranchised, furiously angry, frustrated, scared people in this country to say, hey, Democrats and moderate Republicans and anybody who's not happy with the crap show that's going on right now, here are some ideas how to make it better. This is how we can work together. These are ideas for the future. This is what we want to offer you. Hope.
Yes.
Health insurance. Childcare, affordable
Well,
medication.
again, these are policies that,
Right.
there are different positions on how healthcare should be
that
provided.
This now, use the word fractured. This post-speech fractured scenario is just yet another opportunity that seems it's been frittered away.
Well, there's two
by
ways
not
that
being
something
pulled
like this
together.
could go. There's 2 ways that something like this could go. You could have a bunch of people saying different things that all appeal to different segments, which galvanize them for activity later and increase the diversity of the Democrats' coalition. And there's a strategic way to do that. So it's like long-tail marketing,
Right.
where everybody gets their own targeted message and each one picks the messenger that they prefer. Unfortunately, what it kind of looks like is there was no cohesive strategy session which has each of these people developing a message which then ties into a broader message. I fear that what we're going to see is a bunch of competing messages, and as a result, it's going to push people away or make people skeptical of each different faction of the party
I
which
have
is
a question,
developing.
because I remember reading in the post-2016 election what happened,
Yeah.
how did this all fall apart, that was a really big problem with the Democrats, that the Republicans are really good at, here's our message,
Yeah.
it's a strong message, it's to many of us it's an important message, but here's our message and we believe it, and everybody had the same talking points.
Yeah.
And for the Democrats, even with one candidate, you had a different message for every single little group.
Yeah.
It became really about individualized politics.
Yeah.
And that didn't work.
Yeah.
Like that just didn't work. And they've said that afterwards, that when Hillary went out and was appealing to this small group or this small group or this small group with all these disparate messages, everything kind of crumbled. But the Republicans, with one strong message in their Fox talking points and they're honing in on anti-abortion and whatever is the main holes of their party platform, that seems to work. So didn't the Democrats learn anything by seeing it didn't work last time, why are you doing it again?
It's almost ironic because at the end of the Real Politics workshop, if you take the long version and you hear me talk about lobbying, I always get to the point where when politicians are trying to listen to voters and voters have a million issues they care about and they're all pushing all of these issues at once, a politician can't figure out which issue is the most important and how to earn people's votes. But I realize now, I'm listening to you, the reverse problem actually applies to politicians as well. When they're trying to appeal to so many people, it's impossible for folks to know which issues that politician will prioritize.
Right.
And what they're going to do when they're in office, which leads to a fear of disingenuousness and a concern about them following through on promises. And additionally, when you're in that position of messaging, it makes it much easier, instead of trying to appeal to all people on all things who have widely differing views on how something should happen, it makes it very difficult to craft a unifying message. So the easy fallback is to simply attack your opponent. So I think something that will be very interesting to see is what the official Democratic response is. And obviously you'll have the opportunity to watch this before this video comes out, and I'll be going to watch it myself, and we'll have more on that next time. But what's Ed Kennedy gonna say? Is he going to have a bunch of policy proposals like Medicare for All, which seems to be getting a lot of traction, or is he going to talk about the dysfunction of the administration?
I just want to say something else.
Yes.
Because my head is exploding with what you're just talking about.
Okay.
In that Republicans say all kinds of things.
They do.
And then they get to office and seem to be doing the opposite at this point. And it doesn't matter to their constituents. People are still voting for them. People were willing to vote for Roy Moore. Roy Moore, who was one of the most despicable candidates ever, and yet there was only a 20,000 differential in that election.
Yeah, well.
And so it seems like to many people it doesn't matter. As long as you have party ideology on a very base level, gun rights,
That's right.
no abortion.
But do you believe Roy Moore is a terrible human being, and I can't believe an evangelical would ever support him? However, when he says, I'll always be pro-life and I'll bash abortion, and when he says, I'll always support your right to own as many guns as you want and shoot whoever you like,
right?
Do you believe him on those things?
Personally, well, actually, yeah.
I believe him too. I believe
too.
any Republican who gets up there and says that.
And the people, they've boiled down all these things into a couple of really finite things they can hold on to. And so it doesn't matter.
That's what they get.
That's what they get. But who gives a shit if you can't pay your hospital bills and the hospital kicks you out when you have cancer because you don't have insurance? It doesn't matter because you haven't got.
But every single fertilized egg has the opportunity to be kicked out of that hospital, and that's what matters.
And get a gun when they get out.
And get a gun when they get out.
I just wanted to take a moment and read this. I read this on Facebook today, and I thought it was really powerful, and it kind of ties into what's going on with the Democrats from my, uninitiated point of view, because this is all still really pretty new to me. But somebody posted this, and I thought that this was so smart and something that Democrats at every level should take to heart. There are so many circumstances where the left needs to abandon the circular firing squad as political strategy. This isn't to diminish the issues that get brought up. Everything merits discussion. We just need to acknowledge that perfection, absolute wokeness, and total agreement on all issues can't be the standard for accepting allies. That's just righteous political suicide. And I think that in the environment that's going on today, I'm seeing more and more where people just are digging their feet in the sand and saying, like, this is it, and I'm not going to work with this group, or I'm not going to work with this group. And it's getting harder to build coalitions when we really need to be building coalitions because everybody's getting caught up in identity politics. And then when Democrats will do something where they have 5 people come out after a speech to talk to different individual groups, and most likely giving different individual messages, this is exactly what's happening.
Ironically, even though you had sort of given a scrunched up face to the idea of Bernie Sanders and the Bernie Bros earlier, Bernie's original message in 2016 was of economic populism. And he took a lot of heat for essentially ignoring identity politics and saying it was all subservient to a larger message that the working people of the United States are being left behind in the economy. But right now, the Democrats, and this is their biggest challenge, they don't have a way to unify their constituency. They have a lot of important issues that they care about, but the varying levels of importance to each group are wildly out of sync.
Right.
And there's not even an intellectually coherent idea from the Democratic Party right now as to how to distill the demands of voters into a unified party platform. That's why I personally encourage people to get involved with their local Democratic Party so much. You can have a local party and a local government that is highly responsive to your individual community needs. And what will get filtered up through your party engagement are the things you really can't let go of. By doing things like changing rules in your county, by electing state committee members that then select national committee members. That sort of stuff can filter up. The real problem is, I mean, there's time before 2020 because everybody's having elections in 2018 or 2019 for their party elections.
Right.
But we're not doing it fast enough, and the number of people who know about that sort of infrastructure for translating message and creating party feedback loop is not large enough. So it's dangerous, and the Democrats are in a dangerous situation.
I agree.
The easiest thing to do right now is just fall back on knocking Trump, because trying to say what you're for is a scary concept when you're not sure everybody's for it.
Right.
But you gotta choose something.
So on a brighter note than this, which is pretty dark,
Now,
get involved.
get involved. Definitely do that. That's important.
2018 is about getting involved. Local political clubs. Run for something, volunteer for somebody who's running for something. If you have a skill that can help somebody, I've offered graphic design services to people in out of state races because there are people out there who need help. So if there's something that you can do to be involved and to make that happen, start at the local level so that it works its way up so the system can kind of change into a more cohesive whole. Go out and do it. This is the time.
Absolutely. And the last thing I would say is that for the messaging piece, I was telling somebody this the other day that we oftentimes refer to the United States as, the states are the laboratories of democracy. They test policies. But your local campaigning, your local political parties, your local activism, those are all test beds for messaging. You test ideas there. If voters accept it somewhere, then you can take that message from your town to your county. If more and more voters accept an idea, it will eventually get picked up. And so the idea that everything's going to happen at the national level immediately and takes a lot of money and a lot of infrastructure, you might be able to get a national message if you had all of that money and all of that infrastructure. But that national message wouldn't have been tested anywhere. And one of the things that is paralyzing the Democratic Party is it went from a 50-state solution to a centralized party after Howard Dean left, and they tried to create a bunch of national messaging. That's not how the Tea Party did it. That's not why the Republicans are in power. They started locally, and you know what? They had a bunch of rallies, and the things that caught on were taxes and birth certificate. And nobody would have gone out and been like, you know what I think would be a great national campaign? Let's go after Obama's birth certificate. That's just nuts. But they did it on the ground level, and people really, it caught fire.
Right.
And it's ridiculous. And I'm not saying we should come up with ridiculous ideas. I'm just saying doing things locally is important to test ideas that then go national.
Okay. Well, on that note, which was positive.
Very positive.
We'll see you next time.
Laters.